Hello, here we're going to look at how to multiply a polynomial by a monomial. Recall that a monomial is a polynomial with just one term. It's a single term. It could be 3, or it could have a variable with it, 3x, or a different variable, 3t, squared even. So monomial is just a single term like that. So we're going to take a polynomial, which is something with multiple terms like we see here in the first example, and multiply it by a single term, such as 6y. How does that work? Well, we do the distributive property just like we do with normal numbers, or if we were multiplying just by 6, like without the variable. So that means I would distribute 6y and multiply it by 4y squared, and then times negative 9y, and then times negative 7. So that general principle still holds. It's just now we've got this variable of y out front. So when I combine it with a y squared, I gotta worry about my exponent properties. And remember, when we multiply two numbers with the same base, we add the exponents. That's key to succeeding at multiplying polynomials by monomials. And this is a skill that we will use often, so we want to become really good at it and really quick with it. So first of all, 6y times 4y squared. Well, there I go 6 times 4, and then I want y times y squared. So writing it longhand, I can multiply the numbers together, and then multiply the variables together. I'll come back to simplifying that. Next up, it's plus 6y times negative 9y. So that's 6 times negative 9, and then y times y, as far as the variables go. And then I want to distribute one more time and take my 6y times negative 7. So that will be plus 6 times negative 7, and then y times, well, there's no variable in this one, so just y. Alright, working through and simplifying. 6 times 4, that gives me 24. Y times y squared, remember, we're multiplying the same basis, so add the exponents, it gives me y cubed. Moving on to my next term, I have plus 6 times negative 9, so that's negative 54. And then y times y is y squared. And then lastly, 6 times negative 7 will be negative 42, and then y. Okay, notice how when I went through here, I brought the sign with my number. Right there, I brought my sign with my number. That way I can just say it's plus whatever negative 9 times 6 is, plus whatever 6 times negative 7 is. And then when I go through my final simplification, I can understand that plus a negative 54 is just minus 54y squared, and then plus a negative 42y is just minus 42y. Polynomials in standard form, everything simplified, all like terms combined, so I leave it like that. Alright, that first one was good practice. Let's try it again. This time we're asked to simplify, and I see that I have two different polynomials being multiplied by a monomial. So I'll simplify each first, and then do the addition of combining like terms. The first one is pretty easy, because it's just a constant, and we have done that before. 3 times 2t squared would just be 6t squared, because 3 times 2. 3 times negative 4t would be plus a 3 times negative 4 is a 12, negative 12t. And then plus a 3 times negative 15. Alright, before moving on to the next one, why don't we simplify this? So I get 6t squared minus 12t minus 45, which is 3 times negative 15. In the next one, I get 6t times 5t. So that would be 6 times 5, which is 30, and t times t, which is t squared. And then 6t times 2, that would be 6 times 2, which is 12, and then t times just 1, so 12t. Okay, so I did all my distribution, but I now have to combine like terms, do the addition. So I have 6t squared plus 30t squared. gives me 36t squared. Now I look to combine my t's. Hey, negative 12t plus 12t, they cancel out, leave me with no t's. And then minus 45. And there I have multiply my two polynomials by a binomial and then combine like terms. Lastly, we're going to take this up a notch and solve an equation with polynomials on both sides. Okay, to do this, you first simplify both sides of the equation, and then we'll get b alone on one side. It's just like always. Simplify both sides first, and then solve for b. Alright, so I have to distribute b on the left side. So I get 12b, which is b times 12, plus b squared, which is b times b. I then subtract 7. Alright, it looks like I got the left side simplified. Now I go over to the right, 2b, just copy down that. Now I have to distribute this b. b times negative 4, that's negative 4b. b times b, that would be b squared. Now the right side is not quite simplified yet. I have to combine my two b terms. 2b minus 4b, b negative 2b, plus b squared. Now, if that squared term were to remain, that b squared, that would be an issue. That takes a whole nother step called factoring to solve. And we're going to talk about that in a future video. But right here, notice how when I'm moving all the b terms to one side, minus b squared, those cancel out. 1b squared minus 1b squared, and they are gone. Thank goodness, no factoring yet. Now I'll move the b's to the left side, plus 2b. I'm going to get 14b minus 7 equals 0, because notice I moved both these terms over, so I just have a 0 sitting over there. I will now add 7 to both sides, so I get the b term on one side, and now I want to get b all alone by dividing by 14. And b is equal to 1/2, which is 7/14 reduced. b is equal to 1/2. So what do we do there? Remember, this is the key idea always when solving equations. You must simplify both sides first. Both sides of the equation must be simplified. And then solve for the variable. Now, of course, there's a lot that goes on in each of those steps, but it boils down to those two basic ideas. Simplify both sides first, and then solve for the variable.